So throughout the memories, Zelda has a Sheikah Slate and travels through Hyrule with it before the events of the Great Calamity. But, according to this cutscene, she is using some sort of map to head to Goron City. At this point, the towers are still in the ground, and the only way to get map data is activating them and splashing some Kool-Aid onto your bootleg iPad. So, how is she using the map? And later on, she just so happened to take pictures of areas with memories important to the story, even though it is raining here and in the picture the weather is clear? Coincidence? I think so. While I've covered a good amount of Breath of the Wild theories and tried to answer many of its mysteries through lore and structures found within the world of Hyrule, I haven't talked much about the events prior to the game, specifically 10,000 years ago. As you might have already guessed, this was due to not having much information on what took place then. There are a few hints you can find about the history of this time by looking throughout the world. For example, the bond between the Zora and Hyrule stemmed all the way back to this time. The East Reservoir Lake had been built with the combined technological prowess of both races, and because of this, a very close relationship had been made between the two. While small, it shows how much detail was put into the story to expand on it. Sadly, most of the interesting stuff in this game was overshadowed by the somewhat bland main story that the game provided. If the game focused more on the several side stories it had to offer, the overall gaming experience would have been much better. But what I'm going to talk about is going to be something that is both important to the main story and stems back 10,000 years. Yep, we'll be discussing the Sheikah Slate, a device solely made for the hero to help in combating the Calamity. At least, that's what you might think. But from doing research, many very interesting details about this piece of technology have come to light, and it might not be as black and white as we think. During your adventure, the Sheikah Slate is basically your best friend. By using it, you can activate shrines and towers, use runes such as bombs and magnesis to move objects, and even summon your own sweet ride. If that wasn't good enough already, you can also fast travel to certain locations, making traversing the huge land much easier. Needless to say, it's pretty useful when you are playing the game. Like the Divine Beasts and Towers though, it was wiped from history following the banishment of the Sheikah. So, are there any other secrets that it holds regarding the ancient civilization of Hyrule? Since we are talking about the Sheikah technology, I figured I should start my quest by talking to those that would have knowledge in this sort of field. And the first place I looked was none other than the Hateno Ancient Tech Lab. If anyone was to help shed light on the subject, it would be the person that studied the Sheikah Slate for her whole life. Pura. Originally in the game, you would head over here to get the Camera Rune added to your Sheikah Slate. The Bomb and Stasis runes could also be upgraded with the appropriate ancient materials. Back during the Great Calamity, Pura and Robbie were the ones responsible for putting both Link and the Sheikah Slate in the Shrine of Resurrection. After these events, she made her way to Hateno in order to research the Sheikah Slate for the next 100 years. Upon the discovery of runes not yet known, further investigation led to the upgrade of said runes. But that wasn't the only thing she was working on at the time. When you first meet Pura, it's pretty clear that something is off about her overall appearance. She had been there to put Link in the Shrine of Resurrection, but resembles a 6-year-old. Definitely someone who hadn't been alive during the Great Calamity. Of course, there is a backstory to all this. By reading her diary above the laboratory, you learn of a failed experiment. Well, technically it worked. The story goes that Pura starts to develop an anti-aging rune for the sake of the kingdom. The whole goal was to be able to reverse the aging process, allowing retired warriors to become young once again. This naturally would increase the amount of soldiers and therefore strengthen the Hyrulean army. While ideal, Pura does realize that the need for a technology like this is not very good in the long run. Once the beta of the rune was created, it was used on herself in order to test its capabilities. Things then get interesting.
Trial, Day 2. My extreme full body fatigue is slightly improved, for which I am grateful. Still, I do not recognize the face in my mirror. My hair is thick again, and floor length. My wrinkles, once deepest trenches, have vanished without a trace. It seems the anti-aging effect works. However, I do not expect the reversal to happen so frighteningly fast. This morning, I kicked Simon awake and had him run a full physical exam on me. My height, weight, vision, bone density, heart, blood. We tested everything we could, pushing our facility to its limit. Our discoveries were startling. My results were typical of a Sheikah woman in her early 50s. In other words, I reversed my age by more than 70 years in a single night. Day 3. I awoke with an abundance of energy. It has been decades since I slept so well. Upon waking, I immediately checked the mirror, only to be greeted by a youthful version of myself. According to Simon's examination, I have the body of a Sheikah woman in her 30s. Day 4. After today's routine physical, The results show that I have the body of a Sheikah woman in her 20s. I haven't felt this good in a century. Day 6. My age reversal has progressed further still. I now look and feel like a 6-year-old. My height has progressed so much that I can no longer reach things in high places. It's super annoying. Where is that genius swordsman we placed in the slumber of restoration anyway? Wake up already!
And then, something interesting happens on the final entry.
Day 7. This morning's exam results indicated that I am still age 6. Same as yesterday. Perhaps my age reversal has stopped. As luck would have it, today I also finished developing the beta version of an age-boosting rune! If successful, it should be able to reverse the effects of the anti-aging rune. I hope it will anyway. All I need to do is increase the output and expose myself to its rays.
You've probably noticed something from these entries. While there are a number of runes that already exist, it is actually possible to create your own given you have the right resources and technology. And even though the Sheikah Slate had been hidden away 10,000 years ago, it was already possible to create new runes based on research of the ancient civilization. However, there is a small detail that you might miss in this entire entry. Pura states that she was able to test her anti-aging rune on herself. However, as seen in the game, you can only use runes such as Magnesis and Bombs if you have the Sheikah Slate. So exactly how did Pura manage to test this new rune on herself? The answer can actually be found on the second entry within her diary.
The beta version of my anti-aging rune is complete. I have already added it to the Sheikah Slate I made for myself.
Yeah, you heard that right. According to the entry, Pura recreated a Sheikah Slate so she was able to use the runes she made. While this was created after Link was put to sleep, it brings up the possibility of more Sheikah Slates existing prior to the events of the Great Calamity. It would make sense to assume it was only made to assist the hero since it is used to access shrines and divine beasts to the point where both Zelda and Pura mention it in separate diaries. However, what would the hero need a simple camera rune for? And wouldn't teleportation benefit society in general? Looking back in a memory, Zelda appears to be using a map to travel to Goron City in hopes of making adjustments to Varudania. If the Sheikah Slate was made to only assist the hero, why would it work with Zelda? You could then make the argument that when Zelda tried to activate the shrine, it didn't work. That is a fair point to make. However, even though Zelda assumed it was because she was not the chosen hero, it had to do with the shrines not having any power. Before activating the first tower, it is impossible to enter the shrines. But once the Great Plateau Tower is risen, they light up and can be accessed. Pura even comes down to the same conclusion when talking to Link. There is also a chance that if there are more Sheikah Slates, some may be different compared to others. Perhaps Link's Slate is the only one that can enter shrines or control divine beasts. The technology 10,000 years ago could be considered the equivalent of a cell phone, a society where having a Sheikah Slate is considered normal. So how about their banishment? We are told that it is due to their technological advancements compared to others and the chance of some sort of mutiny against the royal family. Well, I think that this could be directly related to the ability of creating runes from the Sheikah Slate. But why would this be? Let's look back at Pura's experiments with the Sheikah Slate. The intentions for her anti-aging rune were good to start off. The whole point of creating it was to assist the royal family in case Calamity Ganon had returned. The problem, though, is that it worked a little too well. Instead of staying as a young adult, it went all the way to making her look like a 6-year-old. This is sort of similar to the saying, "Be careful what you wish for." Her intentions were good, however because she was ignorant of the rune's real power, the results were catastrophic. So I believe that the Sheikah could have been banished for trying to create certain runes, whether good or bad intentions. Since there was little to no control for making specific runes, it would lead to possible life-threatening results. The power that the Sheikah Slate has is already clear in the game, from lifting heavy objects to literal bombs, and going as far as summoning a physical bike that you can actually ride on. So knowing this, what about the Yiga clan? They appear to have some interesting abilities considering they are simply Sheikah. They can teleport from place to place, but without any items such as Deku Nuts. And Koga has the ability to move giant metal objects similar to that of the Sheikah Slate. Now, I'm not saying that every single member of the Yiga clan have their own Sheikah Slates, but what if they got these abilities via runes? Instead of needing a Sheikah Slate similar to the hero, if these runes worked the same way that Pura's did, where the effect was permanent, maybe they could be given the powers of teleporting and manipulating metallic objects. And on the topic of the Yiga clan, how did Koga recognize a Sheikah Slate? I will admit that this has plenty of explanations. Link and Zelda did confront the Yiga in a memory, so they could have seen the technology and reported back to Koga, who most likely was alive back then. Dorian was also an ex-Yiga member and was blackmailed into feeding them information about the hero and Kakariko village. There is a chance though that Koga knew about it because he had one of his own. Even after being exiled, they were still Sheikah. They would have the knowledge to recreate the tablet and even some runes to help them in their quest to destroy the hero and revive Ganon. So long story short, from what we are given through the story, it is very possible that there are many mysteries regarding the Sheikah Slate that have been left unsolved. It definitely has a chance of making a return to a future Zelda game, and with how the story is set up, the possibilities for future runes is endless. But when you look at it from this perspective, it made sense that the royal family wanted to put a stop to the advances in technology the Sheikah were making. But as usual, this is just a theory. I could just be looking too much into this. But hey, that's sort of my job. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching this video, and if you want to support the channel, you could always subscribe. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant subscribe. I'll just, leave that there for you. Although you can't actually click it. Just reminding you that that is always an option. And as usual, my Discord link will be in the description below, and feel free to leave any theory ideas in the comment section. I've been Nintendo Black Crisis, and I will see you guys later. Oh hey, check out this cool new outro I got. Shout out to Seb the animator for making this, and his Instagram link will be in the description below, so make sure to check him out.